Hello and welcome back to Mark's House and Garden UK. In this video I'm going to talk about how to build a fence, and specifically in this video I'm going to demonstrate how I'm going to install the fence posts. Now this is going to be what they call a hit and miss fence. What that means is it will have batons attached and they'll be alternating front to back, and that will allow the air through, but it will also stop the really strong winds. So let me just talk through what my objectives of this video are. Well, they are to install these 4 fence posts, and I want them to be vertical. Obviously, you need these fence posts to be vertical and upright in every single direction. I want them to be equally spaced. I want them to be the same height at the top, so I don't have to go along and cut bits off the top. I want them to be aligned in a perfectly straight line, so that when I attach the batons, it doesn't look bent and wobbly. I want them to be long lasting. I want to do everything I can to preserve the life of these fence posts. And clearly, I want them to be secure and solid. Now, I'm not a fencer. I am an amateur. And if you're a professional fencer and you want to add anything in the comments, some tips for other subscribers or viewers, then please do so. What you're going to witness today is me doing this for the first time from logic and a great hack which I received from a local farmer. Right, one by one, let's deal with those objectives. Let's talk about making the fence post vertical for a start. Imagine that's our fence post and we want it to be both vertical in that direction and that direction. Well, there really are only 2 planes. There's a plane there and a plane here. So if we can find a way of securing it vertically in that plane first, and then secure it vertically in that plane, it can't move in any other direction. So the way I'm going to approach that is, if I show you this one, if I attach 2 batons like that, and then I secure that one in the ground to stop it moving that way, and then I secure that one in the ground to stop it moving that way, it can't move in any direction. It will be secure. So if I do that before I put the fence postcrete in the bottom of the hole, it's going to be nice and vertical and stay vertical. Now the next thing I want to demonstrate is how I'm going to keep them all aligned. I'm going to do that on the floor here. Right, once again, this is purely Mark's House and Garden logic. Let's imagine this is the line of the fence posts, and I want the front of all my fence posts to be perfectly aligned with that line, so that when I attach the batons to the front, they're in a line and they don't look bent and wobbly. Right, so imagine that's the line of my fence posts. If I put a long straight piece of wood on there, I can use that to twist it on that line so that it is aligned. So if I align it first, then I secure it using my batons to keep it vertical, it should in theory stay in place on the line. Right, the other thing is that great tip that the farmer gave me, which is all about preserving the life of these fence posts. Before we get to that, let's just start with a principle that you probably already know or agree with, that water plus wood equals rot. So if you put wood into water for any length of time, it's going to rot. So what I'm trying to do is avoid a situation where my fence post is sitting in water. I want you to imagine that that is a cup of concrete around the base of this fence post, and that's to secure it in the hole and stop it wobbling. Now the problem is, it doesn't matter what you do, eventually water will seep down inside there, and if it's in a cup of concrete, that water can't escape. Now you might think, well, why don't we put a bevel on the cement or the concrete, and that will help the water to run off? And indeed it will help the water to run off, but water will still seep down that wood by gravity into that cup, and it will sit there and it will go rotten. And that's why you see a lot of fence posts rotting at the bottom. So we need to have a situation where we can secure it using our Postcrete or our fencing concrete, but the water can go through and drain away. So the farmer's idea is to pack the bottom bit with well-draining soil, really pack it in and firm it, and then that will help you to secure it in place, and then put the Postcrete at the top 2/3, so it's effectively a ring, so that any water that does seep down can carry on seeping down and drain away. Now, we've done all the theorising and working out, but there comes a point in any project where you actually have to start doing, and we've reached that point in time now, and that's probably when we'll start actually learning. Right, let me tell you what I've done already. I have used this marker spray to mark a straight line in line with the cottage wall, and that's going to be the front edge of this fence. I've also dug 4 fence post holes, and they are equally distant apart, and because there's 4 posts, there are 3 gaps, so basically I divided the maximum distance by 3, and that's where I put my fence post holes. Pure logic. Now, these fence post holes were dug using my fence post hole digger. Let me give you a quick demonstration, but if you want to know how that works, I have done a full video on it, and I will link to it in the description box below this one. But essentially, you go in and you nip and you lift the soil out. It really is that easy. The fence posts have already been stained black. It's easier, in my opinion, to stain them before you put them in. And that hole needs to be 1/3, at least 1/4 the length of the fence post, so that a good amount of the post is underground. These are heavy posts. A good amount of that post is underground, so that when it's secured, it's not going anywhere. Right, so far so good. I have here a bucket of gravel that is going in the bottom to aid drainage. Here is the pile of soil that came out of the hole, and there will be a ring of soil around about 6 to 8 inches of the bottom of the fence post before I put the Postcrete in. This was a really thick bamboo hedge, by the way, but I've stripped it all back because it was getting in the way. It will grow back, don't worry. Right, first things first, some gravel into the bottom. That's simply to aid drainage. Next, let's get the fence post in. In it goes. And the next thing I'm going to do is very simply attach a baton to the front face so that I can rotate it and make sure that it's in line. Now, these are screws which don't need a pilot hole. They make their own thread, so they won't split the wood. So I'm just going to get it started here, avoiding any knots in the wood. I've popped a second screw in to keep it horizontal, and hopefully now you'll be able to see that I can now use that as a visual guide to ensure that I am aligned. And this is the same soil that came out of the hole in the first place. I shall just make sure that the post is pretty central in the hole, and then we shall drop some in. Not too much. I don't want to fill it in completely, but I'll just get some in the bottom around there on both sides. Now I can use one of my batons to compact it down. I haven't started the process of making this fence post vertical yet. Now, I am going to do a little bit of preliminary fixing in place. So I can use this to twist it so that it's on the line, and then I can see, using my spirit level, if it's anywhere near vertical. And I can kind of get it almost vertical. And in theory, I could probably get away with using that soil in the bottom of this hole to secure it when I put the Postcrete in. But in order to demonstrate what you might need to do, I am going to put these diagonal batons in just so that you've seen it happen. I'm going to have to go through there. So that is approximately where that diagonal fixing baton is going to be. There's the baton. Here's the stake. Here's a lump hammer. That stake's in the ground. Now if I attach that with a screw here, it's still flexible at the other end, and that's exactly what I am going to do. This is now where the magic happens, because now what I can do is I can lift that baton up diagonally like this, and I can make sure it's vertical once again with my spirit level, which it now is, and I can put a screw through on this side, and I shall keep double checking the level, by the way, just in case I've knocked it out and moving things. So there's a screw started. We'll bring that up to there, and in that goes. That baton is now stopping that from moving in that direction, and I shall do the same in this direction. This time I'm going to attach the baton to the stake before I knock it in. So let's just put a screw through here first, and now we can knock the stake in. Now that I've got the stake and one end of the baton secured into the ground, I've put a screw in this end of the baton. I can make sure it's vertical, and I can secure what is effectively a wooden guy rope. So we now have that secured in two different planes. It can't move, and I shall just once more double check the vertical before I then put the Postcrete in the hole. That's definitely vertical that way, and it's perfectly vertical that way. Next job, Postcrete. Now there's a saying, isn't there? Measure twice, cut once. And I think what I'm saying is, my advice is just keep checking to make sure that this is definitely vertical before you put your concrete in, because once that goes in and it's set, there's going to be no moving it. It's still aligned as well. Right, Postcrete. This stuff I think is brilliant. And what you do is you put half of the mix in the bottom of the hole, put water in until it stops soaking away, and then you put the other half of the mix in the top of the hole, and then you fill it up with water again, and it sets in about 10 to 15 minutes. So let's get half of that in there. And I shall make sure that there's some at the back as well. Just to recap, I've got gravel, soil, and now I've got Postcrete. More than half, actually. I'm just going to distribute it around a bit. Now, I'm going to add water. It doesn't need any mixing. It just needs to be poured in, and poured and poured and poured until it stops soaking away. And it's still soaking. I'll just agitate it a bit to help it get down. Just put a bit more in. Let's put the rest of this around the top. Just put a bit of water to it. One post in, cup of tea, 10 minutes later, that should, in theory, be set fast. And I can now go and do the one at the other end in exactly the same fashion. I've put the fence post back in, put some gravel around them. I'm leaning them backwards out of the way. The next thing I'm going to do is put a batten across the very top. This will give me my top line, my horizontal top line. I'm just going to put that in halfway and then check it with my spirit level. There might be a little bit of a bow in the bottom, in the middle, but so far so good. It's really quite level, that. I'm very, very pleased. Let's get the other two posts set, then I can start putting the batons on, which is the thing I'm really looking forward to. They're already painted, laid out on the lawn. Right, let's get these two vertical, set in concrete. Just going to get another batten on here. This will give me my front edge, so that can go there. You'll notice that these battens are much longer than the fence is going to be, so I am going to cut the ends off. I got them extra long because I wasn't sure how long I needed them. Right, two battens. There's the front face. So happily, I now have 4 fence posts, which are all installed. I want to revisit my original objectives. Vertical, yes, they are all definitely vertical. Equally spaced, yes they are. The same height, I failed on that one. You can see they're not the same height, but I'm going to solve that by cutting the tops off when I put the battens on. Are they aligned? Well, they are aligned. If I sit here and look down, they are perfectly aligned. I'm very, very pleased. Long lasting, well, we took steps to protect the bottoms from rotting. And are they solid? Yes, they're as solid as a rock. They're not going to move, even with the strongest of the UK winds. Right, I now have to start attaching the battens. And this is called a hit and miss fence. So there'll be a batten, then a space, and the space will be equal to the width of a batten. Now, bearing in mind that I got a bow on this batten when I put it in, I'm now going to use a laser level to draw a line across each of the fence posts to give me a perfectly level starting point at the bottom, and on that starting point I will attach the first batten. So here is my laser level. Providing the light on top is green, it is casting out a perfectly horizontal line and a perfectly vertical line. I'm going to use a horizontal line here to mark these fence posts. Now clearly this would be a job that you would be better off doing on a very dark day like it is today, or even at night time. So I'm just going to put it there, let it settle down, then I'm going to use a marker pen and a set square to mark across that fence post. That will be the line of my first batten. I'll start at the bottom and I'll work my way up. Right, next one. Now we're getting to the exciting bit where we start putting the battens on and it will start looking like a proper fence. I'm just putting 4 little wooden chocks on the underside of the horizontal lines that I've just marked. This is going to make it much easier to get the first batten fixed. So now it's time to start attaching some battens to these fence posts. Now, I've got 4 chocks, I've got vertical lines, I've also attached a plank up against the wall to act as a spacer away from the wall. Now I've bought a brand new box of screws here, plenty for the job, and I've also bought a brand new set of drill bits. Now it says on the box what sort of drill bit you need, and it's a good idea to get exactly the right size. It just makes the job easier, stops them from slipping. Right, so glasses on, open the packet of drill bits, and we shall offer up a batten and get a screw through, and then the fence is on its way. I am going to just check the level before I start attaching, and happily it's perfectly level. So it's level, it's butted up against the plank in that direction. I've got my screwdriver with the bit in it, got some soil in there, And now we shall attach a screw through. Now these screws don't need pilot holes, so they will not split the wood. And in it goes. I should go down and do the far end ones and then the fourth one. And then we'll put a spacer on top, add a second batten, and remove the spacer. That's the process I shall be following. One side of it finished and I'm very pleased with it. Even if I left it like that, it would make a good fence, but I'm going to do exactly the same on the other side, slightly offset, and that's why it's called a hit and miss fence. A couple of things I did during the process which really saved a lot of time and frustration. I put a plate of screws at the bottom of each post. I've only secured this top one with 2 screws because it got to come off, because I've got to cut these tops off, but I've already marked a line on top of that batten. And I'll use my circular saw, going at it from 4 sides to get the tops off when I've done the other side with these horizontal battens. And that's exactly what I'm going to do now. So I'll see you in a moment when I've finished the other side. So there you go, my beginner's guide, because I am a beginner, on how to build a fence, how to install fence posts, and how to use Postcrete. I hope you've enjoyed it. I've thoroughly enjoyed this project, and I've been so inspired by the project and how easy it was, really, that I now intend to complete the gap here to my left with a similar fence and an oriental archway. And of course, if you want to see that video, please subscribe and hit the notifications bell. Now, don't forget, all the materials and tools that you've seen me use in this project are available online, and I will put links to them, including the timber, in the description box below this video. Of course, don't forget, if you do buy through my links, I may well earn a small commission, and your support is very much appreciated. And again, I am a beginner, and if you're an expert and you've got anything to add, then please feel free to drop it in the comments box below this video. And I will see you soon for some more hit and miss fence adventures. Bye for now.